Hi, everyone. My name is Valerie Friedlander, and I'm your host for Motherhood Unlimited, the #1 summit for moms who want it all. Welcome and thank you for joining us. It is our mission to take the limits off motherhood and to empower moms to have it all for their own unique and vibrant life. We believe that when moms learn to create where, who, and how they want to be, their overall happiness and life satisfaction increases, and they become inspired and inspirational for their children and each other. Today, we are talking about self-care in 15 minutes a day to radically change your life. Our expert is Christy Funk. I invited her to share with you because of her work helping moms love themselves inside and out. So thank you so much, Christy, for being here.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for having me, Valerie. This is really exciting. I can't wait to get the conversation started.
Fabulous. So, well, before we do, let me tell everyone a little bit about you. Christy is a lifestyle coach and eco-beauty stylist who brings women to their full embodied and empowered feminine essence. She does this through several avenues of health, wellness, personal growth, and full body alignment. We are what we eat and think and put into our bodies. So she moves women into a safer and healthier choices in every area of life. Her ultimate goal in working with women is to help them create a life that is authentic to them through self-care and loving rituals. She is currently working on her first book, which will address the very essence of her work. How exciting!
Yeah, super exciting.
Awesome. So tell us a little bit about how you take the limits off motherhood and your journey to doing that.
Well, it's been a path. And so I think it's important and so fitting in this conversation with what you're doing with moms, because it's my story fits right in. So I had an Eco Baby Mommy store here in Orange County for 7 years. And about 3 years into that business, my body just flatlined. And so I have 2 boys, so I am a mom. So I understand what happens in those transitions, right? So my body was completely wiped out. My adrenals crashed, my hormones, everything. They couldn't tell what was wrong with me. Western doctors were saying, well, you know, is it cancer? Is it diabetes? Like all of these big, heavy things. And through the rounds with holistic practitioners, we found out that I was just really exhausted, completely depleted. And it took me about a year before I was functioning normally. It was so severe that I had to come move with my parents, had my mom watch the kids. I had an emotionally absent, who is now an ex-husband. And I had to discover that I was giving too much to my community. I was natural parenting. So, you know, breastfeeding, cloth diapering, co-sleeping, making their baby food while running a store and an entire community. In that year, I discovered, just intuitively was drawn to the computer just to kind of Google things that came up in my head. And one of the things was self-love. I didn't know what self-love was. And I was in an emotionally abusive relationship. So both of those things kind of popped up organically, and it radically shifted my life. So what I did was I started my journey. This was 6 years ago, into self-love. And so this became so big to me because as I was in my store, I was noticing the moms that were not caring for themselves. They were doing everything for their children organically, but they were left with the crust of the peanut butter sandwich at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, hadn't eaten anything, were completely wiped out. Adrenal fatigue, thyroid disorders, they're everywhere. And why? It's because we are pushed into a culture that says, like we were talking right before this segment, is, okay, so if you have a hospital birth, or, you know, just in birth in general, unless you're in a loving community, it's like, here's your, you know, your diaper bag, your formula, you know, this is what you're supposed to keep your baby alive, and that's it. Well, what do we do to replenish everything that we lost in birth? What do? We're pushed into being like this perfect mom. Okay, baby's 3 days old, it's time to go to Target, we need to look good. It's a lot of stress. And it's unrealistic ideals. And so as I was doing that, I really found my calling about self-care and self-love. for moms and women in general, because, you know, universally, and especially in this culture, it's strive, achieve, push, grind, figure it out. There's no nourishing our feminine essence as we go through transitions. And this is a transition. You went from being a woman that was like, had her own rhythm and routine. And I would always tell moms in my store, motherhood is shocking. And they looked at me and I'm like, but it is. Like, think about it. You had your daily routine. You knew where you were going to have coffee or maybe lunch with friends. You had the leisure of moving about. You have this beautiful baby. You love the pregnancy. The baby is born. And then it's like, oh my gosh, it's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot. So I think that's why I do what I do, because for women in general, we have to be able to nourish that part of ourselves that society is pushing us to overexert.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I mean, we talk about that as our culture all the time of like, you know, and work and play, work hard, play hard. What about the rest part? Like, and our lives, especially, you know, how our routine shifts with a baby, but we don't get, and this is what I love you talk about, is the rituals. Our rituals that we've created that are within our comfort zone a lot are often ones that are like, they're unconscious rituals where we're actually depleting ourselves instead of caring for ourselves. So tell us a little bit more about that switch to what self-love really is.
Okay, yeah. Now, I do want to make a point that this phenomenon in this country and developed countries are showing more postpartum depression, more issues with mothers after their birth. And if you take a look at India, or even, I'm sorry, I'm going to turn this off because it's driving me nuts. I thought I had it off. It's, I'm from Ecuador.
Mm-hmm.
And in Ecuador, and in a lot of these native cultures, they use traditional modalities to heal a woman after she's given birth. So there's a lot of support in the community. There's a midwife or a grandmother or an auntie or a mother that holds space, and they have 40 days and 40 nights where they just basically have to lay and recover, and people bring food to them. In India, they do massages, and they just bring the baby to nurse, and the mom sleeps and rests and replenishes. We don't have that replenishment. So we need to, first of all, be kind to ourselves and understand that any kind of uncomfortable feelings that we have after birth and in the first few years of motherhood have pretty much been sabotaged and hijacked by modern culture. So if we can understand that, we can come into a deep breath and go, I didn't get those 40 days and 40 nights. So I had the 40 days and 40 nights with my mom, and not my ex. It was my mom, really like bringing soups and taking care of the baby. And of course she was exhausted, but she knew how important it was. So let's be kind to ourselves, and you know that it's a matter of like forgiving ourselves. Like, we don't have to meet those expectations that society has given us, and we have to understand that we were never replenished in the first place. So your start to motherhood was already hijacked. Okay, so then we come into starting to understand our role as a mother, right? Whether you're working or you're not. To be fully present for the child, we have to be present for ourselves. And so in order to show up in full love for our child, we really have to start to reclaim our self-love for ourselves. Now, if we were taught this the second, even before we were pregnant, how much easier motherhood would be, right? Mm-hmm. So we start to learn to love ourselves because we've given and given and given and given, even before the baby came. And so loving ourselves really means for self-forgiveness, meeting us where we're at, not trying to reach these absurd goals, whether it's your family, your spouse, your church group, maybe your preschool group, or any of those like big goals. What feels good to you?
Mm-hmm.
It starts really what feels good to you and what does not feel good and loving and nourishing. And when you start from there, then you're like, oh, wait, I don't really have to sign up for everything that my kid needs, or, in the church group or in the community group. What really feels good to me is on a Saturday, just hanging out with my children, taking a walk and building a tent in the middle of the living room and baking cookies and having pancakes for breakfast. That really feels good to me. And what really feels good to me is when I get to sleep in, or, it's like starting to tap into that. I think that we miss self-love because we've given it all of our energy away. Mm-hmm. And so, we can go from that point.
Yeah, I think we often seem to think of self-love, self-love seems like it's one more thing to do. Like that's the way I know that I've heard a lot of people talk about it. And, like when I talk about self-love, it's like, yeah, I do that, but I have all these other things to do. And like, I just don't have the time. So yeah, share.
This is really good. Okay. So this is really good because self-love is not something that you do. It's something that we are. Now think about how you do one thing is how you do everything. How I always say that. So if you are in a relationship, you are in a, you're in exchanging love. It's an intimate relationship with someone else. How we do so if we're not having self-love, if we're not developing that relationship with ourselves, how can we fully move into a deeper relationship with our spouse, our partner, our children? Right? So when you're depleted and overwhelmed because you're like, one more thing that I have to do. Well, how are your children feeds that? And we'll talk about this because this is really, we're talking about the future, adults that we're raising. Mm-hmm. And so if we can't spend a few minutes a day finding out who we are, then how are we going to meet them at their spirit level? It's impossible. You can't show up in presence because when that year that I was completely wiped out, I had to really come into me and realize, gosh, I've been doing so many things. It's hard for me to be fully present for my children. My relationship now with my children on a spirit level is really, really profound and really deep because I'm fully aware and present. So your intimate relationship with yourself is the most important relationship that you can have with anyone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it makes sense that, well, for one, even meeting them at that spirit level, that heart space, if I'm going and going and going and going, not only am I not meeting them at that space, but I'm also, I'm modeling this behavior that they will then learn and model back. And I've actually seen that, but, trying to teach my kid to be okay with, oh, that didn't work so well. All right, what do I want to do now? Or I didn't get what I wanted from that. Now try telling, 5-year-old some of that. But I figure, eventually with enough, that repetition,
right,
they'll start to get it. But speaking, go for it.
I'm going to interject really quick because you touched on something. When we're going and going and going, we're distracting ourselves. We live in a culture of distractions. Mm-hmm. So the more we put on our plate and the more we appear like we have it all together, we're distracting ourselves from ourselves. Mm-hmm. We have a hard time sitting in silence and just getting to know who we are. And it's uncomfortable because there may be parts of ourselves that we don't want to see, but all of it's good. The dark and the light is good. But it just takes practice to come in there. And it's not like, like you go to a gym for an hour and in that hour you have goals and you set goals. Well, self-love can be in between the gym and the grocery store, right before you go to sleep and in the morning when you wake up. And that's what we're going to talk about is how to readjust our day so we can fit 15 minutes for us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that was going to be what, talking about rituals. I mean, part of my understanding of rituals are just doing there are things that we repeat over and over again to support ourselves. It's the patterns, or we just did a ritual. My son graduated pre-K and started kindergarten. And I used to think, oh, that's a silly little ritual, you know, like why would you do, I mean, it's pre-K. But then I saw the power of the ritual in transforming his perception of leaving these friends and going to kindergarten as this scary thing, of this thing to celebrate. And it actually like transformed that. Whereas, you know, we have like certain rituals of, say, putting makeup on every day that we might, if the mindset is, you know, I have to because I look awful if I don't,
right,
you know, then that's actually not healing for us. So I would love to hear you share some more about that idea of rituals and the 15 minutes a day that we can do.
Yeah. And so if we go back, once again, I'll go back to previous generations and certain cultures where ritual is everything. It's how they, you look at Native Americans from this country, they have certain rituals that have endured and been very present since the beginning of their like cultural, you know, cultural groups. And so we don't really have that, especially in America. We don't have, it's a new country still. And so a lot of other countries have the ritual of eating, like in Spain, where my boy's father is from, and they were just there for 5 weeks. 2:00, everything shuts down, and they have the ritual of sitting and having a real meal with the entire family. And that creates bonding and intimacy and connection. So our rituals that we have to claim for ourselves is the same thing: connection, intimacy with ourselves. So you cannot fill everyone else's cup if your cup is depleted. It will wear on you. Energetically, our feminine essence is just being wiped out. We're leaking energy everywhere. How are we supposed to have that life force? So a ritual can be something very simple. It can be having a warm cup of tea. It can be reading your favorite trash magazine. There's no judgment. There is, because I also noticed in the holistic community that there tended to be like these really high expectations within that community. Well, you need to be everything holistic and have this immaculate garden and be in nature and catch butterflies and bake bread. And then it's exhausting in that realm. What feels good to you? And this is where I work with women is we take a look at how you're depleting energy. Can we talk about that? How we are depleting energy. And so everyone on this call and in this work, take a look in your day where you're giving energy that you don't want to be giving, where it doesn't feel good. And you're going to start coming into your body, because our body tells us everything. Oh, I have a gut instinct about that. I don't want to do it, right? Well, that gut tells us everything. And so you're depleting your energy when you're giving your life force away, when you're giving to things that are not really beneficial to you or your family. Or it's one more list. Start to take those lists and shrink them down to what is in the highest interest of me, my children, and my family. Mm-hmm. You know, it seems very selfish, but it's when you preserve that, then you have more to give. You have more energy to give. And so you whittle down the list, and it's like, okay, 3 things a day that I really need to get done. And then you add things that help. So learning to, you know, where is your energy going? Is it going all into the moms group? And then you have, you know, you're giving your kids like candy for dinner. So, you know, how do you want to show up as a parent, as a mother? And of course, you know, there's no perfection in that. If you want to give candy for dinner once in a while, you can do that. No judgment, no grief over that. But how you want to give if you're giving to another organization or outlet. Mm-hmm. And then the rituals can come once you understand what you're putting out and how it may be depleting you. Are you feeling exhausted? Are you having a hard time sleeping? Are you stressed out? Are you blowing up at your kids? We'll blow up at our kids at some point or not, but is it feeling not just? Is it feeling like you're out of control? And so the ritual can be, I talk about this, 15 minutes a day. It's a practice. So you wake up 15 minutes before you need to get them ready, diapered, off to school, whatever it is, or maybe 15 minutes at night, or maybe 15 minutes when they're taking a nap. Instead of when they're taking a nap, it's like, I gotta clean the house. I've got to, do all of this stuff. I set up my store in a way that the boys and I were home no later than 1, usually around 12. So I'd do the early morning. I'd come home. I was nursing both of them, and I'd feed us, and I'd have one baby on one side and the other baby, like I had nursed him, and then I'd be reading over the shoulder. They would fall asleep and I would sleep, or I'd read. So you can squeeze this in. It's what feels good to you. Does a cup of tea or maybe a bottle of kombucha? Does a warm, soup sound good? What feels nourishing? Maybe a dark piece of chocolate, picking up an old magazine, maybe watching a video for 10 minutes, or just sitting in silence, just laying on your back on the floor, maybe doing a few stretches. It's anything that feels good. Maybe it's even going in the bathroom and putting on a face mask and jumping in the tub really quick. Mm-hmm. It's whatever you want to create. But if you can make that practice every single day, you have 15 minutes, over time that adds up to filling your cup.
Yeah. I love that. I think about, is saying yes, saying no to me? Because I'm always looking for what the win-win is. How do I find, because I believe that we're all connected, and that, if I'm nurturing me, if I'm doing what's most loving for me, then it is going to spread out around me in various ways, in ways I might not even realize.
Absolutely. And we talk about energy and frequency, right? And I show my children and I talk to women, because when we say energy, we think woohoo, right? And so whatever your religious affiliation, spiritual path is, it doesn't matter. A light bulb has energy, rock has energy, plants have energy, we have energy. And the energy of anger, resentment, guilt, fear, frustration, overwhelm is a lower frequency. When we talk about radiance, it comes from the inside. So you can put all the makeup on and have the hair did and the dress on, but if you're not radiating from the inside, it's a lack of inauthenticity. And so when we are feeding ourselves well, when we are taking care of ourselves, when we're nurturing ourselves, our radiance goes up, our frequency goes up. Mm-hmm. So that frequency is very dependent on the choices and decisions we make in our life. Mm-hmm. So, and I know when I'm down, I know when I'm not feeling good, I'm more irritable, I'm cranky, but then I know my true nature is to be in a place of joy and excitement and inspiration. And it's, women have it's our hormones. It's the way we move with the cycles of the earth. We're up, we're down, but really to have that homeostasis within is the goal.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we affect everyone. We really do. Yeah. We really do. They've researched this, that somebody vibrating at the level of love will affect thousands of people, and it's a ripple effect outside of them.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, actually, that's one of the things in my training as a coach, we talk about. It's looking at energy levels, but kind of what energy is that attitude and how we're showing up to life. And that is something that can be shifted, but those lower levels are actually, we call them catabolic, which means they break down. And then moving upwards, you get into the anabolic, which is more creative and building. And so while the breaking down can be beneficial, sometimes if I need firewood, breaking a chair is going to be a good thing, like that's breaking it down. But it's not a sustainable thing. If I want to sit, if I want to rest, or if I want to, offer somebody else a place to rest, I need to build the chair, so it's like looking at what do I need right now, but knowing that the forced, destructive, or depleted victim, like life's happening to me kind of space, is not sustainable. And that's when I need to ask for support. That's when I need to reach out, which is so hard for moms. And you're talking about that, of that, saying that the support around us and the shoulds of, well, I should be able to do this.
Okay, this is a great point, because yes. So if you are in a circle where everyone has those shoulds and they're all keeping up with the Joneses and their expectations, and are so high and that doesn't feel good to your spirit, find another tribe. Just call them in. Seek those that are, I think we will be seeing a huge radical shift universally as women are rising. We're finding out that we're actually repulsed by that push and grind. There's many of us that have either had health issues or emotional flatlining because we've been trying to be fitting in this box, and we're creating a new paradigm for women. And so, and it's completely okay to not want what everybody else wants, and to look with discernment and look at those models and go, what, and when we say when we can have it all, right? We can have it all. That looks different, very different for every woman, right? And so really what we want is joy and harmony. We want harmony. So whether you are a CEO of a major corporation, you want harmony, because if you're not in harmony, the company is agitated. The same as the CEO of your home, of your, you want that harmony. We want that harmony and that balance, and it's unique to every single woman. Address those needs. Every single woman on this planet would benefit from 15 minutes a day.
Absolutely.
Her spouse, her children, the grandparents, everyone would be so much happier. You are more alive, more present.
Yeah, and I love that you're saying that about just find the tribe that will support that. And I think we often get caught up in judging our insides by other people's outsides and thinking, and yet I think we all get together and we're all wanting many times the same sort of thing of being able to reach out and ask for help without the feeling bad about it. Like, oh, I know they're so busy, so I shouldn't ask. Ask. The worst thing that happens is somebody says no,
Right. Yeah, and asking is such a hard thing because once again, we've been led to believe, well, we can do it all. You're supposed to do it all. No, you're not supposed to do it all. I had to ask a lot in, those, because it was from the time that I got really ill until I left. My ex was a course of about 2 years. And so I had to do a lot of asking in the last 4 years as well, because it's like, oh, now the transition to single motherhood, and I'm still not supported by him. We have to ask. And it's a very courageous thing. And when you know that you can ask, that you've claimed some of your self-loving power. That's a good telltale sign that, oh my gosh, I have the courage to ask. It means that I'm learning to love myself. And learning to love yourself is a lifelong journey. Because it's really self-discovery. Who am I? What has my life been up until this point? What didn't work, and what do I really want? And how do I really want to feel? It's, I see a lot of times out there, because self-love has become such a little catchphrase in the last few years. It's like, put a Post-it note on the mirror and say, I love you every single day. All right. Put on a hot dress and go outside and lipstick. No, we've got to go into those layers, and it's not a 7-step program. It's not. Because the woman that's maybe been traumatized or is in a dysfunctional relationship, that note on the mirror will not register. So just learning who you are, whoever is out there right now, whether you're in a completely healthy relationship with your partner, or maybe you're a busy working woman, or maybe you've had some trauma, just meet yourself where you are right now. That's it. And you've started, and then you're starting to pull your power back in.
I love that. So we're getting close to our time. I would love for you to talk a minute, because so much of the core work is obviously that inner space. But you do a lot of work as far as like our external radiance as well. Would you touch on that a little bit too?
I will. Okay. So this is the fun part. We have deep emotional stuff that we're working through our whole lives. You're constantly birthing and rebirthing and destroying and rebirthing and creating. So I'm very, for 20 years, I've lived holistically. I have worked and experienced firsthand holistic wellness. I've been a makeup artist for 20 years. And for 13 years, I've been an Eco-Beauty Stylist. So I'm really aware of the chemicals that are in our food, in our water, in our environment, and also in our beauty care. I'm very vigilant about this. When I started my store, I was one of the first eco-beauty makeup artists in the country at the time. Now it's a big catchphrase. And the science is out. The chemicals that are in our beauty care products are definitely being absorbed into our bodies at high levels. Whereas Europe has banned 11 ingredients, 1,100 ingredients. The United States has only banned 11. So the industry has not been regulated since 1938. So we are sitting ducks for a cornucopia of disasters that have already influenced our bodies. And so basically, to put it, because I'm so passionate about this, is just spreading the awareness. Really, it just starts with a conversation. So our hormones are the most delicate balance that regulates everybody, male or female, but women especially have this delicate balance of our hormones. And when we wake up in the morning, we're automatically assaulted with chemicals that we don't even know in our air, in our paints, in our carpets, in our pesticides, like on the grass. It's in our food. It's in our office building. So the one place I like to tell women that we have the power of choice for radical shifts is in what we put in our mouths, and of course, the chemicals we use in our home, and the beauty products. So when what happens with all the chemicals that are in standard beauty products is they mimic estrogen. So I did this whole post on is your makeup making you fat? Because it's mimicking estrogen. Fragrance is like the top dog on that, and it's in everything. And fragrance alone, they don't have to disclose all the ingredients under the phrase, under fragrance. Mm-hmm. So you could have bleach, you could have floor cleaner, you could have up to hundreds of different chemicals within the fragrance. So that is adding, it mimics estrogen, so it's producing more estrogen in your body, and you're in premenopause, you're in, thyroid disorders, your endocrine system, your gut, everything is just going crazy. And it could just be your lipstick, your mascara. Mascara has heavy metals, mercury and lead. Lead in lipsticks, and we're eating that. And the FDA has always said, well, there's just trace minute amounts of like these toxic ingredients. They don't amount to anything. Oh, they amount to a lot, because if a woman is using 16 products a day, 365 days a year for 65 years, it stacks up. Mm-hmm. So that's really what the point I want, and also to understand that you have to be vigilant about knowing what companies are clean, because the eco-beauty market is the fastest growing in the industry. I've seen tremendous, in the last 4 years, I opened my beauty bar 6 years ago. In the last 6 years, there's more products on the marketplace than I can even count. Mm-hmm. And so there's research, and that's really where I love to do, is I like to look at clean products and go, okay, this is good and this is okay, because anybody can put natural. Mm-hmm. And you can put natural just if like the first ingredient is water. Mm-hmm. And they can slap natural. They can put a green leaf on there, or say organically derived, all these kind of things and the FDA isn't regulating it. So I'm big on that, because I think, and I'll just give you a really quick step, like a trick. If you're getting ready to change your green your routine, your beauty routine, I would say a moisturizer first, foundation, mascara, lip color, absolutely, and deodorant. Those products, because they're sitting on the vast majority of your face. Mascara, because of the heavy metals that go into the tear duct straight into your bloodstream. Lipstick, because you're eating it. Of course, I prefer a woman to completely reboot, because it's an investment in her self-care and self-love. Mm-hmm. But if women are very attached, those are the places I would recommend. Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
And so because of this, I also, and we've talked about this, I'm a consultant because I've tried to align with companies that I really like, that are ethical, mission-based, and have the best, the highest good of women in mind, right? And so for that, I've joined Beauty Counter because of that, because they've actually banned 1,500 chemicals, the first in the country, and they are moving into legislation in Washington, D.C. to actually get the FDA to regulate the industry. There's no other beauty counter that has that transparency to really say, look, we want our industry regulated because women are getting sick and cancers are caused from these ingredients.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something that I get to share with women. And also I like to just share, other products that I like to make women's lives easier.
Awesome. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's so important. There's so much, we're trying to take care of our baby, but yet taking care of ourselves in these little ways. But it's hard because where's the information? So thank you so much for sharing with us. And we're just about at the end of our time. So just to recap, what are like 2-3 things that you would love the audience listening to take away from this interview?
Okay, so I definitely want women to understand where they're leaking their energy. We need to be aware of where we're leaking our energy and how we can pull in our powers. So taking the things that feel good and incorporating that into 15 minutes a day, and understanding that everything that you're choosing makes a difference. So what you're eating, what you're putting on your body, and your thoughts. And so just to continue this loving relationship with yourself, it's a lifelong journey. It doesn't happen in 7 or 12 steps.
Awesome. So thank you. I believe you also have a free gift to share with everyone.
I do. So I have a beauty food PDF that I can reach out, and we'll figure that out, right? So like beauty food, because there are very specific foods that help with our hair, skin, and nails that will, and I like to make it easy, for a mom to make it very easy that she's eating nutritious things that also benefit her beauty. And, because you lose a lot of hair postpartum and things like that. So yes, I will be doing that.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Christy, for being here. And as a reminder to everyone, the email that you were sent with this video also has a link that will get you access to that free gift. So check that out. And this concludes today's interview of Motherhood Unlimited. Thank you everyone for joining us, and be sure to tune in tomorrow for another exciting, inspirational, and helpful interview from Motherhood Unlimited. I look forward to having you join us. Thanks.
Thank you. Bye.